What I believe in is you've got to build infrastructure. And so you've got to build your own element of what is your frame that you're bringing. Otherwise, when you call on clients, if you don't have your own practice, your element, your proprietary model, then you're inside of your client's mess.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm Kevin. Today we're joined by Carrie. She is the founder of Titan Edge Advisory. Welcome to the show, Carrie.
Hey, hello, Kevin. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited because we're talking a lot about the relational aspect to your business and all that. We're going to get into all that later today. But let's start off with the lore. I would love to hear the origin story behind everything. How did you start your consulting firm?
I started my consulting firm at the end of 2016. And so that was after having a successful 20 plus year career in corporate banking, capital markets. I was a currency trader. I worked for a European corporate, which was an amazing experience. I traveled all over the world. I learned how to raise capital inside every financial market. When I went into the banking side, I started running large verticals. So I ran public sector. I ran it for the state of California. And what that means is you cover the 7 revenue agencies. So just think about California, which at that time was the 3rd largest GDP in the world. Imagine sitting over the agencies and the revenue that's running through the systems of 7 agencies. That's really facilitating an incredible amount of capital in the world. And so I ran oil and gas, energy and power, and I was a first call. And when you say first call, meaning when the, hits the fan, you're the first call. And so when you cover relationships, you work really hard in corporate banking to become that first call. And so sitting on those relationships and having a responsibility for their global P&L, understanding how their business works, understanding how they scale. Obviously in oil and gas, it's a lot about operational aspects of the business and how they bring forward their products to the world. So that was my background. Imagine all of that happening. And I came to a place where I really felt like when you're looking at your own career path and you're saying, I want to continue to grow. I always valued that aspect of what my career gave me. I'm like, do I want to do this for the next 10 to 15 years? Just rinse, repeat. And it was a real conscious moment of, you know what? I think I really want to build something on my own. I was always that entrepreneur inside of anywhere that I worked. I always was a part of teams that were builders, people who scaled. I remember when I was working for Aegon and V, which acquired Transamerica. Everybody knows Transamerica, the building with the point on it in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And so when you have the opportunity to do things like that, you're like, wow, what is the next thing? And I knew for me that I knew how to build things from nothing. And so the opportunity to forge out on my own and leverage my expertise and knowledge of people, technology, scaling volume onto platforms. I was super curious about that. I had lived in the Bay Area, lived in New York, lived in Chicago, so I knew the big markets. And Kevin, I just decided I'm going to take the leap. And if it doesn't work out, I had the confidence, well, I'm employable. I think that if it doesn't work out, I'll just go back and get a job. And here I am 8 years later, Kevin, and I still have my practice that's growing. And I'm really doing what I love and what I believe in.
Yeah. And so I'm kind of curious, like, tell me a little bit about your practice and kind of like who you help with your current practice right now.
Yeah, so my company is called Titan Edge Advisory, and we are a set of practitioners that, like myself, have couple decades of experience. We focus on fast moving, often technology driven businesses where they're looking to scale business. Now that can be small cap, mid cap, or large cap. We all have covered business at different levels. It's really about the tech, the team, the product, the service, the platform, the opportunity. We truly believe that we provide clarity. I think that's one of the greatest outcomes that you want to have when you're strategically building a business is who you are, what you stand for, what's your commercial value, what you're bringing to the table, to any decision maker table that you're sitting at. And do you understand how to scale that for not only impact, we really believe in the duality, impact and return. And so we align executive teams, we accelerate market entry, we look at complex change. We love to be a part of companies' transformation stories. We are big on communication. As you know, in my background, having been someone who's pitched capital and done deals at a lot of tables around the world, we really believe in that. I think ultimately, we have a bit of an athletic approach to business, and we believe that we deliver performance that sticks. And we teach others how to do that. And so when you think, Kevin, about now in this very disruptive time with AI and everything where markets are moving, and honestly, speed alone, it's not enough, right? Keeping up with things is pretty much of a challenge. We truly believe that we scale precision, and we're working very hard to stay ahead of the curve, which isn't an easy thing
Yeah.
with AI.
Yeah. That's a really interesting point about the whole AI thing. That's like the
Mhm.
thing that's on everyone's mind. And I think what you said about the athletic approach was really interesting. Based
Mhm.
on your experience, for the clients that you do work with, right? What do you feel like the main reason why they decide to choose to work with you versus like another practice or
I think first, we stay and play in the sandbox we come from. And so
Mhm.
we're not stretching to work into industries that we don't know anything about. And so I come from financial services, fintech, tech related. I understand the insurance industry, brokerage. And so we can run across, that ends up creating a lot of verticals that we can run across. There's about 30 that we can tap into, but we don't try to be
Wow.
something we're not. And so I think
Mm.
that matters, that when we're looking at someone, we understand the industry. In any industry, there are top players. We call them franchise leaders. It's why we believe and talk about what is a Titan. And so there's always
Mm.
a top 10 to 15 companies to any industry that are really driving performance, expectation of what the market's looking for. We understand that, we play inside that. So you're going to get a lot of subject matter expertise. We also very much know how to deal with alignment, which we think is really important across first C suite. Kevin, I like to talk about them as the team of captains, the
Mm.
C suite team. And if you don't have alignment there, you can take a contract or you can be a part of a change management opportunity. But if you haven't created the alignment at the top, it's really hard for the rest of the
Mm.
team to be able to deliver change. And so we
Mm.
have an expertise at sitting at that higher level table and first mapping out what is in alignment and what isn't, and how can you begin to integrate that in an organization. I say the last piece why people hire us is because we're completely growth revenue focused. We know you don't get to hang
Mm.
around unless you actually do something about P&L. And so
Yeah.
even though we care a lot about people, we're human capital strategists and we're fantastic advisors to the leaders
Mm.
that are driving P&L. Ultimately, it's about driving that athletic performance, leveraging your relationship capital to
Mm.
create a return that not only your shareholders expect you to deliver, but you need to deliver to have a truly sustainable business.
Okay. Yeah, and speaking about the client, like it's really interesting how you talk about like your clients. I'm kind of very curious. Like, let's talk about business for a second. How do your
Sure.
clients actually find you, I guess? Like, what's your marketing strategy?
Yeah, in the last 8 years, a tremendous amount of our clients have come from A, referrals. B, we speak a lot at conferences, at events. We're very integrated inside of the industry. So whether it's about being around capital allocator conferences, and that's like venture private equity, you can see us there, as well as traditional conferences that might be industry related, that might be more general in terms of annual conferences. You can see us there. We typically are speaking, we're on stages. And so when you're in the room with the decision makers, I should say, from the industry you're a part of, it's very easy for us to share the value of what we bring to the market. And so that's typically how clients has found us. Obviously, like everyone else, a B2B provider, you're leveraging social media, you're leveraging LinkedIn, and truly creating anywhere that you can own your own digital footprint and how people find you and follow your book of work.
Yeah. And also like it's interesting, like the conferences and the referrals, like as you're kind of trying out these marketing strategies, did you run into any challenges through your practice at all with the marketing aspect at all?
Yeah, I think ultimately for us, if you're talking about like our product set that we're bringing to people, it's really about understanding whatever the commercial value of what they have. So is it a product? Is it service? Is it a digital platform? What they're bringing forward has to meet the need in the market. And where we're moving at the rate of speed of technology, keeping up with that in terms of what you're solving for. And so getting inside of that and helping people understand, is what I have equal to or better than the market? And so that's a very strategic conversation. And so that gets a lot into management consulting type, muscle that you might actually bring into
Mm,
the table. Then it's a lot about who's in the seat to actually deliver that. We
mhm,
get into a lot of behavioral mechanics
mhm,
around the teams you have. We focus who are the business development teams that are forward in the market, delivering, positioning whatever the product or service is. And are they the right individuals in the seat to manage the portfolio, face the client? And so we get into a lot of the mechanics of that
mm,
and helping make sure that you've got a high growth, high performance team that's
mhm.
being rewarded for what they're bringing back to the company, as well as do they have the skill set, which is typically two or three key types of skills that they can
Mm,
flex in front of the client to really demonstrate that Titan leadership. And so we
mm.
focus a lot on what it means to develop growth at all levels. Leaders at all levels is what we like to talk about.
Yeah, and something as you're speaking to, I'm thinking like, man, you've been in this game for 8 years, right? And obviously you've done a lot. It sounds like you've done a lot with your different
28 before
clients.
that, if you add my first career.
Yeah, yeah, because you were talking about being an entrepreneur and all that sort of stuff too, and all that. I guess like where do you kind of want this your practice to be in the next like few years? Do you have any secret dreams or big ambitions that no one knows about?
I think for us, we measure ourselves by the impact that we create clients. So my brain always goes first there in terms of, what's the identity of Titan Edge Advisory? What do we do for fast moving companies? I think when you are an advisor in market, Kevin, you measure yourself also by that circle of confidence that you hold in, how well people trust you, and how well can you help them navigate chaos and change. And so when I think about the inversion of AI right now and where
Hmm.
we're going, the next 2 years is this fantastic, exciting, disruptive, part scary time in terms
Yeah.
of people reinventing themselves. And so,
Yes.
where we see ourselves going is being more and more at the table of helping people redefine who the company is. And let me give you just a quick stat.
Yeah,
So,
please.
in terms of career, kind of focusing a little bit on some of the questions around career path and change, it's estimated that right now, 63% of any workforce inside of any company by 2027 needs to upskill or reskill because of AI. Think about that. Upskill or reskill, meaning that what I do today inside the role I have, I've got to learn something new, or I've got to learn how to do it completely differently, or I have to recognize what I do is becoming obsolete. So just think about that in terms of a changing dynamic of everyone in the workforce. Now imagine being a CEO of that company and thinking about, how do I manage the investment in people versus the investment in technology? And so I'll give two other simple data points around that. Last year, as we were heading into 2025, Harvard and Stanford made an estimate that collectively we would be seeing a $225 billion investment into AI. Yet we've got a standing stat that we spend about $300 billion a year developing, aligning, realigning teams. So just think about this track of what's happening with people, what's happening in business versus what's happening in technology. And so that's where we think we're going to be at the intersection of, how do we recodify what people do versus what technology does, and what becomes that next level of growth. And that's where we're going to be.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that you talked about like how disrupting AI will be. I guess with this looming, becoming such a big thing, are there any challenges that you're seeing in your personal practice that you kind of, I guess as you're growing your practice right now, right? Do you see any challenges along the horizon?
Yeah, well, maybe you might relate to this too. You have the pleasure of talking to people every day. What I see a lot is people's relationship with time, and where you see some of the fear that is driving the way that people are attempting to scale. And so if fear is driving that, then you're competing with technology. And so you and I know, if you compete with technology, who wins? The tech. And so it has to understand, and we could quote Steve Jobs on this, technology is intended to follow people, not lead people. And so what I see a lot in my practice is people burning out, trying to keep up with the evolution of change. So they're chasing what they believe tech is creating in change. And so what we say is, you've got to step back and say, what is the identity of the business? What is our commercial value? How can technology enhance who we are and our commercial value? How can it enhance what we have in terms of people? How can technology take the pressure off of all of that upskilling and reskilling that needs to happen? And what does it mean to make those initial decisions for change? And so what we find is, maybe the hardest thing is creating clarity, because people need to slow down. And will people understand that simplicity is a strategic choice? I'll make the last point. Technology is only valuable if it actually serves a need. And so just integrating tech into a company isn't going to make it better. Replacing people for technology won't make you a stronger, more scalable business. And so those are some of the themes that we're running into.
I see. Do you want to play a game?
I'd love to play a game. I love games.
We have this kind of segment. Well, I know on the previous podcast, we have this like investment question and stuff like that, but I like to gamify it. It's called Good Investment, Bad Investment. So
I love that. Okay.
as you were kind of growing your practice, I would like to know the best thing that you spent your money on for your growing your practice, and the worst thing. This could be coaching, training, team members, mastermind, anything. And so just tell me what it was, why it didn't work, and what it roughly cost, if you're comfortable with that, by the way. Okay? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I am highly motivated by growth. I think you hear this in everything I'm saying, right? So
The athlete.
Yeah, I'm a legacy marathoner, triathlete. I am super motivated. I love reading. You can see behind me the number of books that are behind me. So I'm a little geeky about that stuff. And so, yeah, I've made a lot of investments into programs, masterminds, and things like that. And so I try to keep a positive outlook no matter the experience. I would say that I made a six-figure investment inside of a certain program, and out of respect, I'm just not going to say the program.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah, I don't have ill will. But I think when you end up being in a room, and we actually measure this in our business, like because we're advisors and they're paying a fee to work with us. When you're sitting in the room and you realize, is my peer group in this room? And you're like, no, it's not. And you begin to understand. And when they start talking about the solution set and is it applicable to the market that you're covering? And then you realize it's not. This sounds more like for real estate. This sounds like more like, people buying and selling other things other than the market that I came from or that my team came from. And so, Kevin, that's where we learned, okay, we're still getting good things, but we can't apply the content because the product set isn't what we're into. And so mistakes there. What I truly believe in and I invest in is people who come from the markets I come from, people who have a track record. I'm inside of a boutique consulting mastermind. And I've known who they are. Yeah, I've known who they are since 2016. I actually went to one of their conferences right before I left corporate. And so I can't begin to tell you what it's like for us to sit in a room with 50 or 60 like-minded consulting firms and to be led by leaders that have an academy and a staff. And they're advising you pricing to structure to the latest and greatest that you're hearing in the market. So we're obviously in a safe container, but what's it like to be in a room where people are not saying who your client name is, but you're literally talking about real, live, relevant feedback from the client and what their trouble spots are. And you're talking about ways that we as an ecosystem are actually creating impact and change. And so that is my greatest investment.
Yeah, you said you made that investment while you're still at your corporate career. Is that correct?
I went to a conference with them, and I followed them for quite some time, and I made some investments into some other things. I think I learned on the short term also, Kevin. Like I think every entrepreneur is invested inside of a marketing system or a technology that didn't deliver. I think that's a part of the hero's journey of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, like it seems like it provided a lot of certainty, just like having those like advisory on like pricing. Like for example, you mentioned pricing, right? And especially if someone's really new, you don't know how to price things or if you're like really off or the different factors that people make when selling a solution and stuff. It's really interesting. Okay,
yeah, very much.
Cool. So it sounds like the bad investment was kind of like the one where there was a bunch of different maybe verticals or unrelated fields, like kind of in that room.
It was too big
like
of a room. Format. I invested in a really big program.
Yeah.
And it was every kind of entrepreneur you could think of in the room. It was a little bit more like vegetable soup. And I think I was, you know what I mean? That'll be good in there.
It kind of reminds me of those like some of the generic like entrepreneur events and stuff, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm in like a different field, and it's just like, oh my god,
yeah, you have someone who's like, selling yoga mats to a real estate agent to someone who has like an empire franchise. It's a little bit too broad to be able to get the greater benefit. Yeah.
We're coming near the end of our podcast, but I would like to get some final advice from you. So if you were to start tomorrow with 0 followers, 0 clients, 0 referrals and all that, but you had all the knowledge that you have now, what would you do in your first 90 days of rebuilding that practice?
So for me, I'm leaving corporate and I am thinking about what's that first step in and where I want to go, in case that's inspiring for some of the people in your audience. I think I would do a lot what I did before, which is leverage my relationship capital. I think you and I were talking about that earlier.
Yes.
And so play in the sandbox you come from. I made a decision for three things. I want to be an educator. I was coming to the table with 20 years of experience and had a track record, but I wasn't walking in a room where I was looking to believe that I knew everything. I was like, I'm coming in with my toolkit. I'm going to educate on my toolkit, but I want to learn as well. What I believe in is you've got to build infrastructure. And so you've got to build your own element of what is your frame that you're bringing. Otherwise, when you call on clients, if you don't have your own practice, your element, your proprietary model, then you're inside of your client's mess.
Yeah.
And so you have to stand inside of what I like to say your zone of genius and how you're delivering inside of your framework. So build the infrastructure. And I would do that a little bit differently this time, but I'm grateful for all the mistakes I made and for all the things I did correctly. I think the final piece is you need to balance both impact and return. And so what I mean by impact is I think you need to care about the zip codes where you do business. I think it's a lot about that higher level of purpose. I think people, relationships are driven a lot by why you believe you do what you do, not just about revenue. So as much as you've heard me talk about growth, revenue, and return, my greater purpose is that I want to create economic freedom. So taking what I've learned in capital markets and helping people scale business is a way of creating economic freedom. And so those are probably the three things that I'd say. A, be an educator. B, be a builder, be at a table with builders. And C, really value the opportunity to balance between the impact you create in the ecosystem or community, and then also really care about you got to create revenue so you get to hang around and enjoy the ride.
Okay, I lied. I had another question pop up as you're talking.
I love it. Let's go for it.
I know, like, relationships are such a huge thing. What do you feel like
Yes.
a lot of business owners or coaches, maybe consultants, get wrong about like relationships, you think? This concept of relational capital, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. Like, I think it's about exchanging value for value. With speed, the way sometimes markets move, it can become very transactional. And you can sometimes run into people where they're like, what's in it for me? And I think even just getting to meet you, Kevin, and like, who's Kevin? Like, what does Kevin want? What's Kevin's next thing? I think those things matter. I think that's the element.
Yeah, you asked me right in the beginning. No one's ever asked me that before, which is crazy.
Yeah, I'm like, I think we're all aligned for this idea of ascending. We all want to become more. And if we do that together, that's so powerful. And so I love connecting on that end first. And I think it opens up the way that it doesn't feel like I'm pitching or flexing or stressing or pushing. It's about, I'm an advisor. I'm in your corner. I'm here to create growth. I'm here to create, often call it psych pay, Kevin. What is psych pay? It's that psychological recognition that I'm a part of something greater than me. I made a contribution. I understand what it is at a dollar value. It feels flipping amazing, and I want to do more of it. And so I think that's the essence for me of relationship capital. And I'm really glad I've got a few decades of that to stand on.
No, it's really interesting. We were talking before the podcast and you're like, oh yeah, I love books. And we look at your stack of books. I'm actually a book lover. If you go to my Vegas place, I have libraries of books and stuff too.
I love
there's
that.
There's one book that comes to mind that I think about you as. Have you ever read the book Trusted Advisor at all? It's like this
I don't think so.
yellow. No, it's really interesting.
I've read a lot, but I tell me more.
Yeah, it's just really so honestly, I've only read like part of it, right? But the key concept of that book is, how do you build trust with someone? How do you become an advisor to someone? And there's like different factors like credibility, right? So that's your experience in the corporate and stuff like that, your previous career. Intimacy, the quality of how safe someone feels around you.
Mm-hmm.
There is one more, but the most important one that I thought about you is this concept of self-orientation and the ability to think about what's best for your client as well. So that's what kept on popping through my head during this whole time as well. So I just felt like I should bring that up. Yeah.
No, I love that. One of the principles, if I can share, one of the things that we do when we're looking at C-suite alignment or leadership alignment, we talk about people's cognitive mapping, their instinctual mapping. And so we all have a modality that, and how we create a sense of self and how we like to problem solve and complete things. And I think the more that you build that self knowledge, I like to call it self IQ, then the greater the we IQ is. I know these are very sophisticated terms, self IQ, we IQ, but it really is a science behind it that if I understand myself, then I'm at total ease to be present. And in this case, meet Kevin and get to know Kevin and understand what he's about. And if I do that, then I'm always in a state of collaborating. And I think that's a powerful thing that we need right now in this world is a lot more collaboration.
Yeah. There's a whole science about it, which I could delve into. Like I'm really into,
yes, I could do with you
and all that. Yeah, like honestly, I could talk about it.
Next interview, Kevin.
Next podcast, right?
To be continued.
Carrie, dude, I'm like a big nerd about that sort of stuff, but it's so important to be able to understand how do we turn on the empathy part of our brain and stuff. But
we need that. Yes, for sure.
Carrie, how do people find out about you and connect with you?
Oh, thank you. Well, our website is titanedgeadvisory.com. I am on LinkedIn. I would love it if anybody wanted to reach out to me directly. Carrie Moore, that's Carri. Last name is Moore. Or you can reach out to our firm, which is info@titanedgeadvisory.com. I would love anyone who would love to jam like this, Kevin. This would be pretty cool.
I think we'll leave all the links that you talked about in the description as well. Cool. So great having you. Hopefully we'll have you again. This was pretty fun.
I would love that.
Really liked your perspective on relationships and stuff, but yeah.
Thank you. Just let me know. I'm happy to come back and collab some more.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.